Welcome to this install and configuration guide for Sony Soloist. There will be a couple of prerequisites for Sony Virtuoso on XP. So please note that Windows Media Player 9 or above and Visual Studio 2008 Service Pack 1 should both be installed before Sony Virtuoso. A network share folder should be created. We will name this Sony LL or Language Lab. Within this folder, we need to create 4 subdirectories. We will label these as Lessons, Recordings, Videos, and Sony Data. These folders will be used for accessing and saving files. Within the Sony Data folder, we will need to create another subdirectory called Auto Updates. This folder allows you to add updates, then by configuring the software to read from this location, the software will automatically update. We shall start by going to Connected's file sharing site to download the required files. So I'm going to go to my internet browser, and in the address bar I'm going to type https://connected.sharefile.com. You should now be presented with a login box. Enter the permission set supplied to you by Connected. When you gain access, you should now be able to see the folders that you have access to. Go to the Software Downloads folder, then locate the Sony Soloist Student folder. Within this folder, you can select files for different operating systems. Open the relevant operating system folder. You may now either select the files for download as individual files, or select the whole folder and click the download button. I'm going to select to save these downloads to my desktop and click Save. The download will take several minutes. Once the download has completed, we can log out of this file sharing site, unless you want to download more files. Navigate to the downloaded folder. You can see in this file are all the files that you requested for this download. Now we're ready to install the software. Locate the installer MSI for Soloist 11.301 and double click to start the install wizard. Click Next to accept and begin the installation. The install will take a few seconds to complete. Once it has successfully installed, click on the Finish button. We can now patch up the software to the latest version. Click on the patch file SoloUp 11.41 and the software will upgrade. Click OK on the notice box. Soloist should open. Click OK to any error message. This relates to the configuration settings and Soloist failing to obtain a license from concurrent control. Now that it's been installed and patched up, we are ready for the configuration settings. You can see here that the record button is greyed out. When Soloist obtains a license, this button will turn red. Enter the configuration settings by pressing Ctrl, Shift and F10. Then enter the password SANS only. We shall start in the Teacher Control tab. You will need to change the path to point to the Sony data folder on your network. You can browse for this by clicking on the Browse button. The next tab we want to look at is Temp folder. Here we need to enter the path to the Temp folder. The Temp folder I'm adding here is for XP. The XP temp folder to use can be found at C drive, Documents and Settings, Username, Local Settings, Temp. We can then move on to the Startup Defaults tab. Here we need to browse or type the path to the Lessons folder for opening media files and to the Recordings folder for saving media files. Once these are in place, we can move on to the next one. The next tab being Wave, MP3 and RA Settings tab. Change the recording format to Stereo 44100. OK, onto the Mixer Device tab. For the Record Input and Mix Record Input, go ahead to the drop-down menu and select Microphone for both. You can also, on the right hand side, check the Show Volume Control checkbox. We can now nip back to the Startup Defaults tab. You can now select the Check Use Current Volume Settings at Startup. Then onto the Open Save Files tab. Here you need to enter the path to your Sony Language Lab server and the Videos folder. You should make sure it's the Videos folder within the file structure for your Sony Lab and not a My Videos folder for Windows, which may also be a shared folder. Once you are sure the path is the correct one, we can move on to the next tab. The Save Recordings and Editing tab. You need to just check on all the shown checkboxes. Log files and auto updates. We now want to browse for the auto updates folder and enter the path into the location to check for upgrade program field. The software can now read updates placed in this folder and automatically update. And move on to the Others tab. In the concurrent controller IP or name, you need to add the name or IP address of the server or machine running your concurrent controller. You can now save these settings by clicking the Save Settings to CFG File button on the right hand side. Click Yes to the prompts that appear and save to the same location and replace the existing file. If we open the software, you will notice that the Record button has now turned red. This indicates that Soloist is connecting with concurrent controller. Soloist seat data. You need to set the seat data with Soloist to match a corresponding seat within the teacher's control panel. To do this, go to your Start menu and navigate to the Program Files and the Sony Soloist folder. Within the Sony Soloist folder, find Seat Data INI file. Open this file in Notepad and amend the digits up to a 3 alphanumeric combination. You can now save and close. This should be done on each client machine. Soloist volume settings. Open Soloist and on the control panel you can see the volume settings button. Click on this button and this will open the volume control settings box. You can adjust these controls by the sliders and then click Close to close the settings box. Hold down Ctrl Shift and F10 keys, then enter the password SANS only to access the configuration settings. Now click Save to CFG file and click Yes to save over existing instances of this file. This configuration file can be found at C Drive, Program Files, Sony Soloist. When the next user opens this application, the volume settings will remain. Now that we have finished the CFG file, this can be copied to all the other Sony Soloist client machines. This concludes the install and configuration guide for Sony Soloist.